My name is Rob Medina, and I am with Congressman Bill Posey's office, and he does send his regrets. However, he sent in the first team, a United States Marine. Hoorah! I am truly honored and blessed to introduce our next guest, our featured speaker. However, before I do, I'd like to commend each and every one of you for you being here and wanting to take an extra step in getting to a higher level in improving your businesses and work relationships with our community. With that being said, I'd like for you all to give yourselves a hand of applause. Mark's bio. Mr. Llano grew up in Tampa, and he is a native Floridian. His family migrated from Cuba. I'd like to park there for 1 second. They instilled a hard-working relationship in Mr. Llano, understanding the freedoms and the liberties that this nation has to offer, understanding the opportunity that only is available in this great nation that we call the United States of America. Realizing that instilled Mark and moving forward to become a United States Marine. Hoorah! And I'd like to share a little of his Marine Corps accomplishments. United States Marine Corps Reserve from 98 to 92. He was activated for Desert Storm. He was chosen as a hand-to-hand combat instructor for all special ops. Just to give you a better perspective of that, only 10 individuals in the whole United States Marine Corps instructed all special operations, FBI, CIA, Secret Service, the United States Marshal, on hand-to-hand combat. Let me express, he's also an expert marksman with his pistol and his M16A2 service rifle. That means in the Marine Corps, we don't only go 300 yards out, we go 500 yards out. And he can pluck you out in 500 yards, just to give you that type of perspective. Well, Mark grew up, as I mentioned, in Tampa. He served 5 years in the Corps, and he spent most of his career on Wall Street as an investment banker, with an extensive background in both personal books and business and corporate entities. As I mentioned before, he was selected to teach FBI agents. Returning from active duty, Mark continued his undergraduate education while working for Sherwin-Williams Company. Upon graduation, he was rapidly promoted to the position of flagship commercial branch manager, where he reversed the performance of a failed bank, earning him President Club's accolade. He reversed the performance of a failed bank. You know, I wasn't there, but I could only imagine he held Marine Corps boot camp in that branch. He got those civilians whipped up into shape really quickly to reverse a failed bank. And I'm sure he's very modest of that experience, but there's something about the Corps, and we spoke a little bit briefly on that. There's something about the Marine Corps that changes an individual. It changes you from the inside. Some folks may call it brainwashing. However, it's because of the Marine Corps that I know that my successes has been reached, as well as Mark. And so I thank him for that service. Continuing on, while with Barber & Bronson, he enjoyed 3 years of multi-million-dollar sales, was promoted to partner, developed personal clients such as CEO of Estee Lauder, CEO of Cardinal Health, CEO of Scott Paper Products, and 2 presidents of UPS. After 4 years with Barber & Bronson, Mark was recruited by Charles Garcia in 1997, who was CEO of Sterling Financial Investment Group, a minority business and became partner funding officer, Mr. Llano helped grow the company from 3 employees to 640 employees. Having served successfully in startups and mid-sized organizations, Mark decided to follow his passion and start One Source Distributors in 2003. The company was started for the purpose of supporting the defense industry, national security, law enforcement, search and rescue, fire and safety, private security sectors by providing mission-critical equipment, product sourcing, acquisition solutions, contracting expertise, and a wide range of support services. The company is certified by SBA. Among his many awards, he's received the South Florida Business Journal's Palm Beach Ultimate CEO Award in 2010. The DEA, an official DEA Appreciation Award. He's also received the USCA 2010 Best of West Palm Beach Award in Safety Equipment and Supplies, Community Involvement Proclamation by the Village of Wellington, which he is a resident of. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mark Llano is not only a Marine, but he's a leader in our community. Let us receive the expertise and the knowledge that made him successful with an open heart. Please join me in welcoming Mark Llano.
Well, I could tell you that the hand-to-hand combat, now that I'm 42, has done really nothing more than help me collect my money a little bit faster. I first want to say how many veterans are in the room today, and if you could stand up, we'd like to thank you for your service to this country, if you could please. Now, how many Marines do we have that joined the right service? There we go. It's always a running joke when you go to meetings or presentations and you see how many people are of different branches of service. And, you know, there's always that thing about the Marine Corps, and, you know, you wonder why the Army, Navy, Air Force can never make the Marine Corps. And it always baffled me, you know. But let me tell you, we all bleed the same, and there's no doubt about it that if one man was down, you'd be carried, or if one woman was down, you'd be carried. So we live in a different environment today. 6 years ago, I was actually in a different room, and I remember sitting in the audience. And I don't know if anybody was here 6 years ago, but it was, have you ever remember Colonel Michael McKnight? Anybody remember that name? He's the commander. He's the one who commanded the movie Black Hawk Down was filmed after him. And I remember sitting in that room and listening to him speak. It was, what year was it? 6 years ago, right? 7 years ago. And I remember listening to him, and I said, wow, you know, what a leader, what passion. And if you think about the leadership today, how important that is just in business. What I want to do is, we have an hour, and it's very difficult in an hour to open up Pandora's box. So what I'm going to do is just give you some of the highlights of my company called Source One Distributors, tell you what we've been able to do, how we've been able to do it, talk a little bit about what it took for us, and then what I like to do, because I've sitting on that side before plenty of times, is open it up for maybe a couple questions. Because sometimes you sit here and you give a presentation or you get death by PowerPoint, which I won't do. I want to hear from you guys. I want you guys to have the takeaway when you leave today that you can say, hey, I got 2 or 3 of my questions answered, and if I don't know it, then I'll blame it on somebody else. Where's Carol? I'll ask Carol. Carol, can you? So Source One Distributors, I started this company in 2003. It was around 2002. And I started listening to some of the special op guys that were telling me, for us, we provide mission-critical gear, tactical gear, body armor, night vision, scopes, weapons. If you could think about the troops and what they're wearing, from the uniforms to the boots to the socks, we do that. So we provide the government almost a one-stop shop or a vendor consolidation program for tactical gear, because that's what I know. If they asked me to be a one-stop shop for office supplies, I could only tell you how to kill somebody with a pencil, but I couldn't sell it to you. We ended up pretty much just getting a phone call, and somebody said, hey, we need help. And at first, I was kind of like a deer in the headlights because I didn't understand the FAR, and I didn't understand all these acronyms. And I will tell you that as of today, even in the Marine Corps, we know a lot of acronyms. And acronyms are used every day, and that's just the traffic that's used in the military is acronyms. I don't have a PowerPoint on the acronyms, but the amount of acronyms that are used in government contracting is just tremendous. And nobody says you need to know them all, but you need to have access to Google and look them up pretty quick. We started this company out of my daughter's bedroom. I started with my laptop and a cell phone. Somebody called up one day and said, hey, we need help sourcing gear. Next thing I know, 6 months later, we're doing $1.8 million in sales. How did we do that? If you've been onto FedBizOps before, there's a lot of that information is on there. It tells you what they're looking for. Has anybody not been on FedBizOps before? FedBizOps is the resource for the government. This is where they post $25,000 and higher. If you go on the FedBizOps, you can actually break it down and you can look, maybe you sell plumbing supplies, maybe you sell office supplies, but within that, there's the contractor, his address, his phone number, his email, and from that, you can start to create a database, and you can actually call. You can't talk about the actual contract because it is posted, but you can talk about whether maybe some other opportunities that contracting officer has. So for me, I started very slowly working on the FedBizOps, and then because I live in Florida in West Palm Beach, I said, okay, well, where can I go? Because when you first start a company, you have pretty much a lack of capital. So I drew a line through the state of Florida, and I went from Lake Okeechobee south, and I started listing every government agency for me that would buy the commodities that we sold. And you think about all the military bases, and I started getting introduced and started meeting people through the SBDC, through PTAC, through the SBA, and I started understanding what is really their role at the end of the day and how could they help me. And I wasn't looking for the handout because the reality is nobody owes us anything, but what I wanted to do was understand how the military bases or how these federal agencies buy. A year later, after that, we're doing $4.8 million in business. And at that point, I realized I needed to go from my daughter's bedroom to the 3-car garage, and we started actually getting a little bit busier from there. Next thing you know, we spring up, and we're doing over $20 million. Last year, we secured a contract worth $5.7 billion, and at this point, we employ about 40 people, and our primary mission is supporting the special op community for Afghanistan and Iraq, and of course, what I call CONUS, and overseas OCONUS. So crawl, walk, run is the message for us, is that we started to gradually grow, and we started to grow rather quickly, so we almost went from a crawl to a run, and we had to pull back the reins a little bit and say, okay, what do we need to do here so we don't fall? One of the things I would tell you is, and this is so important, when you have your own company, it is so important that you believe in yourself and you believe in your ability with what you can do. How many people remember or know Sidney Frank? Have you ever heard that name, Sidney Frank, before? But I bet you'll know this one, Grey Goose. And some of us, maybe the Marines, Jägermeister. Let me tell you, I don't want to ever think about Jägermeister anymore. Jägermeister actually used to be a cough syrup, go figure that. Sidney Frank is a guy who actually founded that, and he ended up selling it, and he sold it in the billions. He has a quote that I absolutely love, and it says, "Some people are afraid to put their money into something, even if it is something they believe in. But you can't be afraid in life because fear will stop you from achieving success." So here's a guy who took cough syrup and bottled it and sold it to a bunch of jarheads who throw up the next morning. So that tells you a lot, that it's how you market, it's your ability. Entrepreneurship is doing what others fear to do. Being an entrepreneur today is not easy, and we're going to touch upon that later. And I'll tell you some of the things that we've had to go through As you can imagine, getting a contract of that size, it wasn't easy. But I will tell you that 3 years ago, we bid a contract about $1.7 billion, and this was well over my head, my team's head. So what we had to do was go out and go hire consultants, and we had to assemble a team to come in and help us. And there's nothing wrong with admitting when something's over your head. If you think you can do it all, chances are you're going to fail. So I believe you hire incredibly, insanely smart people. That has been the #1 motto for me, is to hire people who are a lot smarter than a Marine. And let me tell you, for me giving a presentation, it's usually a circle and a stick and we draw. But when you sit here with some of the people we hire and they start throwing all these matrices and formulas and you kind of look like a deer in headlights, you start to understand what's really going on. But it's your ability to lead is the key. It's how you lead people. And leadership is so important as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, as an executive, whatever your position is, you've got to earn that. So one of the things I put down here is you have to empower people to execute. You have to give them enough freedom to be adaptable and creative to solve complex problems, while understanding, as an owner, for me, when I give people this, their left and right limits. It's very important. You just don't give somebody an open checkbook within a company. You tell them. You give them their left and right limits. You hire some of these smart people. You tell them where you want to go, and you make sure that they can get you there. You hold them accountable. I will tell you, as an entrepreneur, you need to take risk. And if you're not willing to take risk, then you might be better off working for somebody who can take that type of risk. And that's just a reality. You know, for us, when 3 years ago came and we bid a contract worth $1.7 billion, we spent about $175,000, real cash, real operating cash flow. And we lost it. And there were 23 companies that bid. We came out 4th, and we were right there. And we had a decision. Was it worth doing a protest? And let me tell you, my experience is take your licking and move on. Unless you absolutely believe that you're unequivocally going to win the protest, think about that a little bit. And of course your lawyer may tell you, hey, yeah, you're going to win. But remember, that's the lawyer talking. Hope there's no lawyers in here. But the reality is, it's not his checkbook at the end of the day. It's your checkbook and it's your reputation. Because I will tell you, I know a lot of companies that have done protests, and they are never, ever welcome back in some of those shops because you have tainted them or made them look bad. And Carol, correct me if I'm wrong. Do you? I'm telling you, you got to be very careful when you start losing that you don't go, woe is me, oh well. It's the way it is. You know what? You get beat up in the park as a kid, what do? You go train again, and you come back. But don't start fights, that's what I tell my kids. You know, for us, when we lost that $175,000 in consulting that we paid out, I didn't really care. Was it a lot of money? Oh yeah, it was a lot of money. But the amount of knowledge that I learned, and this is for 6 weeks, having them sit there from 7 in the morning to midnight, and I'm talking Saturday and Sundays, was unbelievable. So the next time a solicitation came out, it was this massive one, $5.7 billion. And some of my smart people kind of looked at me and thought I might have been crazy. And I said, you know, we can do this. This is something we've been looking at doing for the last 4.5 years. We invested half of that money because the other half came from our employees who had knowledge a lot more than me. And out of that contract, we ended up winning. And there were 4 of us that won that contract. And each company got an open-ended contract, an IDIQ, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, worth $5.7 billion. Now, it doesn't mean that Mark Llano is a billionaire. Trust me, that is not the case at all. What it means is that it gave me the Willy Wonka golden ticket to be able to bid. And I still have to bid against these other 3 companies every single day. We bid 30 to 40 contracts a day. We probably lose 90% of them. But part of our contract is we have to bid no matter what, win, lose, or draw. So sometimes when you start thinking about the amount of money and the manpower, but when we do win every now and then, you know, government contracts are sometimes like an EKG. You can't run your business on an EKG, because if you hire on the upswing, next thing you know, you don't know how you're going to support them when you're on the downswing. So for us, winning this contract was a big deal. And I could tell you that 2 years ago, everybody may remember the big market crash. You know, for us, that's a pretty big deal. Here we were winning one of the biggest contracts ever, to only have the banks come to us where we had a $6 million line of credit and said, hey, we need our money back. And we have a great relationship at that time with the bank. It didn't matter who you were. It didn't matter what you did. It didn't matter what you secured. And trust me, I tried to secure everything possible. We had 30 days to come up with $6 million. And we did. But within that time frame, we also had a very important decision. Our life was going to change. Our business was going to change. And we had to adapt to that. And, you know, I refer to this almost as and I think some of you may have can relate to this, it's almost like a generation reset. What we experienced 2 years ago was a generation reset. Every 10 years, we go through a recession. But this is a total purge. This is a push. This is a reset button push on we as entrepreneurs, as business owners, how we run our business today. And this is what your senators and your congressmen and everybody's looking at today, is how is that moved effectively? So we started making some important decisions. Do we close the door? Do we continue to open it? How do we tell our 40 employees in Wellington that, hey, we just won the largest contract ever, but we can't finance it? So when I tell you I sat there for a lot of, and I wasn't drinking Jägermeister at this time, I was drinking Maker's Mark. I went for the good stuff. And I started thinking to myself, what are we going to do? So I started tapping into every resource possible. And I started realizing that there are opportunities with the banks out there today that will loan you money, that you can support your company, and then you can support this contract. But the way you think as a business owner has to change. And you can't be thinking anymore as you used to. So for us, we said, okay, some of the stuff we could start to factor. And if you don't know about factoring, you should learn about factoring. You should learn that when you win these large government contracts over X amount of dollars over your operating capital, how do you finance that money? Because you shouldn't say no to an opportunity, because an opportunity is only knocked so often. But you should really methodically think, can I support that contract? So for us, we went to Wells Fargo. We were able to secure $10 million. It may have cost us 1% of $10 million and a little fee every month. I don't think my CFO would say little fee, but there's a fee every month that we pay. But we realized that in order to keep the doors open, in order to continue to grow this contract and do what everybody in this office sacrificed to do, which is to win this contract, we were going to have to change. Well, that money at the bottom line is affected by everybody when you talk about any type of business. And I hope you can take what I'm saying and relate it to your company, that you may be winning a big construction contract and you need more bonding, or you need to pay your suppliers or your vendors. I mean, this relates to any business today. So we ended up in a position where we said, okay, you know what? The banks are going to require us, they're going to give us 90% financing, we're going to finance 10%. And slowly, we started to grow. And we realized that we had to change the way we were spending our money. We spent probably maybe we spent $1 million a year on trade shows, to give you an example. And I said, hey, let's cut out our trade show budget by $350,000. And you know what? Me, Mark Llano, I may take a pay cut. I may not give myself a raise. I may not do some of the things that I would like to do, but for the better of the company, we need to do the right thing for its employees and follow through with the contract that we received. And these are very hard decisions as owners that we face, is we have to be able to look forward, not backwards, and go, whoa, woe is me, so what, economy changed, but you have to change with the economy, and you have to think ahead of that. This is a little story that I actually read an article on General Colin Powell, and he was talking about some of the things that motivated him. But one of the stories that I remember reading, and he talked about the second lieutenant, and I don't know how many officers are in here, but, and I was a corporal, so, you know. Are there any officers that were officers in here? Okay, so you guys have something called the O Club, right? Is that what they call it? So the second lieutenant with its butter bars, thank you very much, comes walking into the O Club. And he sees this general, and this general's sitting in the corner. And the second lieutenant was so ambitious and had such a hard charging, he was a Marine, so he was moving forward. And this old crusty general is sitting there, and he's drinking a little bit of whiskey, he's got his cigar, it's a little cloudy in his area. And the second lieutenant comes up to the general and says, "Sir, how do I become a general?" And the general says, "Son, you have to work like a dog. You have to get people to trust you. You have to motivate people. You have to roll up your sleeves with them and never lead by fear. There may be days you are tired, but you must never show fatigue. You'll be afraid, but you can never show fear. You must always be the leader, and a leader's job is to serve." The young officer was so excited, and he looked over at the general and says, "Sir, is this how I become a general?" And the general said, "No, this is how you become a first lieutenant. And you keep doing it over and over again." And that's what it takes today to be a leader. And as a CEO, president, executive, I can care what you call me. Your job is to serve those who work for you and to give them the tools and empower them to make decisions and to trust people with those decisions. If you cannot trust them, then you have the wrong person in the position. That is a fact. One of the things I can tell you is in business that I've learned is you can't take the shotgun approach and try to be everything for everybody. You can go through 5 doors and nothing will open. Or you can go through 1 door and 5 others will open. And that is so important. I'm going to say it again. You can go through 5 doors and nothing will open. Or you can go through 1 door and 5 others will open. People buy from people. People do business with people they want to do business with. Nobody owes you anything to say, "Wow, you're an 8A company. Wow, you're a woman-owned." That's great. But those are certifications. People are not buying the certification. People are buying you, me. That's what they buy at the end of the day. So how big is the government? It's huge. Say the government spent $540 billion last year. What's amazing to me is that half of that money is spent in July, August, and September. That's why I can't stay here too long, because there's a lot of money to be made this month. This is the government's fiscal. Isn't that right, Senator, Congressman's office? And then they go on a nice short break to Nantucket or something like that? No. I use the words fire for effect, and a lot of us in this room will understand that. But it's much like a sniper, it's much like a commanding officer or a sergeant saying, "Hey, fire for effect on that hill." It's the same thing in business. You fire for effect. You find the right opportunity, and you continue to fire in that 1 door. That 1 door is huge, and here's what I mean by that. The DoD is broken down by the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines. The federal market is your 3-letter alphabets. DOS, Department of State, DOC, Department of Commerce, DOJ, Department of Justice, and so on, CIA, FBI, whatever. Your Department of Homeland Security, which is also on your federal marketplace, Coast Guard is rolled up into that now, which I'm sure they're not happy about. But there are 23 agencies just within Department of Homeland Security. So again, 1 door. So for us, we said, hey, how do we break into the federal market? We're already working with DOD, so we started to work with DHS. DOJ had opportunities because you have some of your federal in there, your DEA and so on. The Department of Homeland Security had Border Patrol, Coast Guard, TSA. So right away we saw 3 opportunities within the federal market space. So we started to draw the old roadmap, flow chart, call it what you want, org chart, doesn't really matter. It's a chart. And within that chart, we started to plot out who we wanted to hit. And then we started to say, okay, there's got to be a small business office within each one of these agencies. Well, wow, there sure is. So we then made an introduction by phone. We sent our capability summary. Some people refer to it as a line card of who we are and what we do. And believe me, I have plenty of meetings to understand that you need certain things on your capability summary, and you don't want 30 pages sent to the contracting officer. It's the old elevator speech. You have 30 seconds to make your point before somebody gets bored. It's like a marriage. So within that presentation is your cage code, your DUNS number, or whatever. Right then and there, that person you start to make a relationship with, and you start to keep them in your database. The next time you go to DC, or you want to go to DC in a couple weeks, hopefully, as a follow-up, you go meet that person. You'll be surprised what the one door will open up for you. That all of a sudden she'll send an email out, or he will send an email out to 30 people that are within that small business office contacts. Again, it's Pandora's box, but it's how do you get there? And that's exactly what we did. There's no secret to it. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of rejection. And if you can't stand rejection, then you're on the, it's, you know, again, you can work for somebody if you like. Or you could step out on the limb, swallow that risk, confront your fear, and make a decision that, hey, this is what I really want to do in life. There are some key things you need. A good banker, or two. I hate to say it, but you need good lawyers. You need good accountants. And you need to have smart people working for your organization that you can, again, empower and trust to make good decisions for you. The number one person that's going to market your company, and everybody, I mean, we have a marketing director, but the number one person, the face of your company, is you. You, the business owner. And again, you could be the chief operating officer, you can be the CIO, you can be whatever. But as the CEO of the company, you are the face. Your website is important. One of the things we do, and we do it all the time, is we market, market, market. I'm on the road, and I market my company. I meet people, I talk about our company. But a lot of times, I listen. I always let them talk first. They say that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth so you can hear better than you speak. We've all heard that adage. Well, I let people talk, and I listen. And right away, I can identify what their needs are and where these organizations in the military, what are they struggling on? And then I try to come back and think about how can we find a niche for them that would help their needs. I don't know if you've heard this before, but I believe you have to delegate, you have to compensate, and you have to evacuate. And a lot of people say, Mark, what do you mean by evacuate? Go golfing? And I said, no. You delegate what you need done, you compensate people for doing that, and you evacuate to your next project. There are so many opportunities out there. Again, it's how you market your company. I'm going to close on one thing, and then we'll open up some questions, because I know our schedule looks pretty good. One of the things that I believe in is that if you believe in yourself, you will become what you believe. If you believe in yourself, you will become what you believe. And as a business owner, I have had plenty of hard things happen to us. But on the same token, too, we've had a lot of great things that have superseded all our hard times. If you're not falling, if you can't make a mistake, you're not learning. It's just like being a kid when you ride a bike. You're always going to fall. But you get right back up on your bike, and you're pushed again, hopefully not in San Francisco downhill, but you're pushed somewhere. That's what's great about Florida. You know they're only going to go so far. And you get back up. So anyway, I want to close on that, and I want to thank you guys for having me here today. And I know that some of you may have questions, and we'll go from there. So thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.